in September 2015. I arrived from the Boston airport on the Dartmouth coach that loops around the green. I felt hopeful about things that were going to happen here, things I'd get to learn, and science I'd get to do. But it doesn't feel very much like that anymore. I'm Vasiki Chauhan. I'm a PhD student in the field of cognitive neuroscience. I'm pursuing my PhD at Dartmouth, and I specifically work on how humans perceive faces of other people. When I was in the 9th grade, I got my hands on a book about theory of relativity and Einstein's life and how he became a scientist, and that just blew my mind. I became really intrigued by physics. I spent all my pocket money buying books about cosmology and general relativity and quantum mechanics. I was really, really, really into it. Because I was interested in physics, I loved thinking about artificial intelligence and robotics. It kind of all came together in the end. When I was pulling into Hanover and I flew in from Mumbai, I was captivated by these red brick buildings. I felt like I was kind of walking into a dream when I got there. Once I got here, I noticed that in order to fit in, there was a certain amount of requirement to go together and get a drink. There were 3 tenured professors in the Department of Psychological and Brain Sciences: Todd Heatherton, Bill Kelly, and Paul Whelan. They brought in a lot of grants. They were very famous. The professors would be in the bar, and all of a sudden, some women in the group would suddenly have new drinks in their hands that they didn't even choose, they didn't even pay for, and we knew that they were paid for by the professors. That was highly normalized, so I just went with it.
The mentorship was so heavily entangled in this drinking culture. If there was a drink in front of you, to turn it down almost felt like you were turning down advising.
Either you go to the bar with him and he'll read your papers, or you don't and you are neglected.
There are now so many red flags, and none of them registered to me at all at the time as a red flag. They would try to keep us from talking to each other about our experiences. And it worked pretty well.
Bill Kelly and Paul Whelan would routinely make jokes about our physical appearance as though this were a competition.
I had witnessed Paul Whelan kiss someone on the forehead, and there were just lots of hugs and kind of inappropriate touching.
The text messages went from oh, what are you up to? How is it? How are you doing? To, oh, I've been drinking. A girl like you would never have a guy like me. Sending nude photos and telling me what he wanted to do with me.
When I entered graduate school with Bill Kelly, I experienced a lot of heavy grooming behaviors from really day one until he physically took advantage of me at a conference. This being my advisor, I was just kind of didn't push back. I didn't say anything. I felt trapped.
Cumulatively, it's all consistent with how predators behave. One day, Paul Whelan, he invited me to his house for a farewell party to one of his RAs, and there were a bunch of other graduate students there. And then we went to a bar. And after that, I think at that point, I was okay, if you want to get another beer, this place is closing down, we can go to your house. I'd been to his house before and I didn't feel like it was anything out of the ordinary. And I was trying to play music and he had gone to grab beers or something. And when I felt his body behind me, and you know, you don't forget a thing like that. You don't forget that, oh my God, what's really happening right now? I always remember saying no. I used the word, I used the action. I was explicit. And I know that to the core. He had so much power and influence and weight. And I was just this graduate student from India, like early stages of my PhD. It was just this deep and insidious violation of trust in human behavior.
I didn't know for a while the degree of wrongdoing that had happened. I'd heard rumors. I went to a conference, an academic conference, and Todd Heatherton came to a post-conference event at a karaoke bar, extremely intoxicated. And he summoned me over to where he was sitting and kind of grabbed me by the butt and sat me on his lap. I just remember feeling this intense sense of embarrassment and shame, and that I would never be taken seriously as a scientist. I started just kind of raging, really, in the conference hotel. And then after that, I just started talking to people.
To be honest, it took comparing my experience with the other women before I started to realize that I wasn't the problem.
We realized how eerie and startling the similarities were between the patterns of these women. We realized these men meant to do this.
At first, it's just like, oh, this is just my experience. And then it's, oh, other people have these experiences with these three men. And then it's like, oh, a lot of women.
We sort of organized ourselves and met with the chairs of the department without even naming the professors. They understood, they knew exactly what we were talking about, and decided to launch a Title IX investigation.
A committee determined that the three professors should be fired. But before that could be finalized, Bill and Paul resigned and Todd retired.
If you allow three professors to resign or retire after a year-long investigation, you're not setting a precedent. You're just doing the easiest, least costly thing for the institution. At that point, it just felt like, okay, maybe what we need to do to affect real change is sue the college from our side, because they need to treat us better.
When we first decided to file a lawsuit, I did want to remain anonymous.
I felt like I was detonating my career without even really knowing the full extent of the damages.
I was worried about not being seen as a scientist, being seen as a victim. But in order to have our stories resonate with other women, in order to get institutions to take interest in what we had to say, we had to go all in. We had to basically put our lives at stake for the impact we wanted to make.
The stunning accusations from several young women accusing three male professors at Dartmouth of turning their department into a 21st century animal house, they say, calling it a predator's club.
The response was overwhelmingly positive, and that was very, very encouraging.
I've had faculty from other institutions reach out and ask for more information about our case so that they can make changes within their own departments.
A lot of Indian women reached out to me and they're like, given our culture, I can't believe this is something that you decided to do, and it makes me feel like this is an option for me as well.
During the lawsuit, I think it was really important for our names and our faces to be part of that because it humanized what that case represented. But it's important to know that our narratives don't end with that case. It's a story that is constantly evolving and unfolding, and it's our lives, and we're not defined by that case, but it transforms who we are to this day. So I ended up becoming a research scientist at a startup. I'm really grateful that I've been able to land in a place where I can still do my science, but that has these more like checks and balances, and I don't need to worry about that kind of abuse of power being wielded over me. One of the things that I started doing is actually weightlifting. So I lift heavy weights 3 to 4 times a week. I can squat much more than my body weight. It's really fun. It feels good to like be in your own body and like feel powerful.
I was a graduate student at Dartmouth when the lawsuit came out, so I had to finish my PhD in the aftermath of all of that. So in some ways, there was a lot of hostility in that moment, in that environment. Given that so much unexpected stuff had happened, I felt like there was no way science would hold on to me. It felt like nobody would want me, in fact. But I kept following the path of my curiosity, and that brought me to New York City. So now I'm working as a postdoc at Dartmouth College. Here we are. All right, I can't wait to show this to you. I also work as a publisher now, or volunteer as a publisher with Science for the People. This one is the issue that I got involved with. It's about technology. We also have a robust, amazing New York City chapter where we engage in direct action together. It's a really fulfilling experience to not feel alone in wanting science to be more than a profession.
I've been very fortunate to maintain a very close tie with my best friend, Vasiki. She's fiercely living her life in every aspect, both in her science as a postdoc, her activist work. I'm just always in awe of her.
What I've learned is that if you want to make change, don't go at it alone. Try to do it with people who will share the burden and have the same goals as you, and as a result can keep you accountable. There are very few things I think of as permanent, but our friendship is one of those things.